Welcome to the White Knuckle Podcast with your hosts, Jason Science and Dr. Clint McCoy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the White Knuckle Podcast, episode number 145. We are on Rut, episode number, grind report number 4. Clint, do you remember what it is?
I think we're up to 5. This is 5, I think.
I think this is 5. Yeah, so we were talking just prior to hitting record here, and I was starting to explain to you that I had Dana come in last week, Thursday, Dana Monroe from Kafaru, and she brought with her tropical weather.
Yeah, boy, send that back weather.
I did.
Yeah, good.
She left today. It's now 37 degrees out. Amen.
Yeah.
She killed a nice one in Nebraska. Took a couple days back to work, and then came out here, and she was close a couple times. And she didn't shoot a couple that she could have. I think she let it.
So over the last handful of days, Jason, what is you guys' like daytime highs have been up there?
Mid 70s, upper 70s yesterday.
Yeah, same. Record high down here, like today or yesterday, one of the two.
Oh, really?
Just awful. Yeah, just awful. It was hot down here, terrible.
Yeah, it's just
it didn't get like this morning when I got up to go. It was 63 out at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like it was hot.
So I got up this morning. It was raining. I said to Dana last night, we'd gone out to dinner, and when we got home, I just said, are you wanting to go in the morning? And she's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's going to be raining. She's like, yep, I know. And we were at my house, so at my other lease. We just went there last night. So she was up this morning and ready and raring to go. She sat out for 4 hours this morning in the rain. Now, granted, she was in a muddy bowl. Was
that the cold front coming through then?
No, it was muggy, and you could have cut holes in the air. But she still saw.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, $3 to $6. I don't, nothing huge. Last night she saw probably $6 and she got to witness some rut activity. But a stark contrast from the day that she got here to today. Not just in weather, but in deer movement overall. I think the weather definitely affects them, but one thing it doesn't affect is the rut.
Yeah.
It might affect, as Mark Drury so eloquently puts it, it might affect our observation of the rut, but it's not ever going to affect the rut.
Yeah, totally. That's totally what's going on. I've seen rutting activity and actually followed it around in the on an all-day hunt during these hot days out of the saddle. And, that saddle's made me be able to kind of, if I see a breeding party where there's a mature buck and a couple little bucks satelliting, and definitely he's tending to a doe, boy, if I'm out of position, you can really get into position slick with that saddle. So I did that about midday, and it was just, when I would see him again after the temperature got to like 75, it was real sluggish, like, I'm going to bump you just about 20 more yards. Let's lay back down. It was so subdued and very quiet. And I didn't get to watch all of it, but the bits and pieces I did see, it was real sluggish. It was a terrible movement day. But then towards, right there about, right at legal shooting light in, they crashed off, took off running and rutting chasing again. But they're still doing it. They're still running, but they're not at full steam.
So, what stage of the rut do you think you're at? If you were going to put it in terms of the 13 stages like the Drurys do. for instance? Because I'm curious because of the difference in geographically, our differences.
Yeah, so I think we're past. So I look at the rut basically in threes. Like they're either seeking tending or ultra lockdown. They're and then you'll get a follow up where they're kind of seeking again. And they ride that estrus curve through the month. But I think where we're at now, there are definitely does that are being tended to by mature bucks. They're Halloween. I pulled some camera cards today, and Halloween was the first wave of them. It seemed like when that cold front came. Mm-hmm. Hot weather's here. They're still breeding, but all real slow now. But now we've got this cold front coming through. We ought to see some real heavy chasing and tending activities next 5 to 7 days.
So I feel like we are on ultra lockdown.
Really?
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because I put on so I took Dana to the airport. There's, I don't know how many miles, 60 miles from my house. Never saw a deer that whole time. Prior to taking Dana to the airport, I had to go across 2 counties and measure a house to list while she was out hunting. And never saw a deer. Took all the back roads there. Never saw a deer the whole way.
Yeah.
And maybe it was because it was raining, but don't you remember us always talking, or maybe you didn't, but we did, like, remember that rainy day, and we rode around and there was deer running everywhere, and it wasn't a super bad rain. It was just raining. So I think that based on that, I think they're locked down.
Really? Yeah. So I think his lockdown is hard to define, but here's how I yardstick it. Here's how I eyeball it, or the best of my ability.
I like yardsticking.
I live in this kind of, if I'm in broken farm country where I can see some distance, or where we're at is mixed timber ag, heavier on the ag than timber. But when I see bucks actively tending does in multiple fields in the wide open on a drive like you were describing, mm-hmm. then we're on lockdown. Then it's heavy. Then it's hammer time. Yes. Then it's like really hard to get.
Okay.
And so I don't know if anyone sees that or maybe looks at it that way, but that's how I put my honest eyeball on it. And I'm certainly not seeing that quite yet. It'll be this coming week, though, for sure.
So what you're saying is your definition of lockdown is when you're seeing a buck locked to a doe, basically. Yeah.
And when they're in those, multiple breeding parties through the course of the day, where you're getting that, you're getting that one buck that I saw on Sunday. He was definitely locked with her, but when you're seeing that across, this all flows over a big bell curve, and so I think you'll see more activity like that, more of that aggressive, super heavy tending lockdown, whatever you want to call it, activity in the next 5 to 7 days for us, for sure. You'll be seeing those big bucks landing down out in the open field and keeping everybody away from her.
So that's what I was going to remark on when we started talking about. So Dana got in the 5th, and we got in relatively early, enough time for us to get on the UTV and go for a ride. And the last field that we glassed, there was a buck, probably mid 50s to mid 60s, just dogging a doe, just every step for step. And so what, if I'm understanding you correctly, you see that and you think, okay, well, that's the exception to the rule. She's earlier than most, and he's the lucky guy that, got to get her attention first. And that didn't really necessarily mean that she's locked to him.
Well, and again, correct, and lockdown is typically, we're defining, is the peak of that estrus bell curve, and by bell curve, I'm talking numbers of does in estrus.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's how I define lockdown. If I had a statistical number to throw at it,
sure.
When as many does are in estrus at the same time in a geographic location, I'm talking tending, breeding, estrus, making it happen. That's when I would define lockdown. I don't know if you could ever statistically prove that, but I feel like when that number is at its peak, that is when you're going to define lockdown. The lockdown behavior is similar to what you're seeing. I mean, that's all rutting behavior. But if I had to throw and again, I'm just yardsticking this. If I had to throw a number at it, that's the number I would pick if I could scientifically prove it. The number of those that are in active estrus at the same time in the geographic area. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, I think so. To put it in layman's terms, I think you're sort of painting the picture of lockdown being all these does in a given geographic area, whatever that area is, are in estrus, and therefore you're not seeing bucks out and about cruising from this fence line to the next, because they're all breeding all the does, because the majority, on the average, most of them are in estrus at that point. So you're going to have
at that.
Okay.
Yes, at that day or at that time or whatever you want to call it. But it's a trick. It's definitely tricky to navigate. Like as far as to put I don't know that you physically can put a tally or a number on that. But I've made some. I didn't hunt today. It was hot enough and the movement was so bad the last couple of days that I just decided I needed rest. I needed to sleep in and recharge for this cold front. And I got up and, looked at some, glass from some areas and stuff like that. And I made 2 real aggressive moves during the middle of the day with a couple of lone wolves, and I'm diving right back into them tomorrow. So I got some super intel on a real good buck, and we're hanging right where he needs to be shot. It's right within proximity to bedding. It's a nice transition trail. It's a no-brainer.
So you think he's still predictable enough that your end result is going to be you're going to pick him up?
Yeah, I know he's still there because I kicked him out of his bed. That was semi by design, like the old bump and dump stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
Like it's on a little hillside, and I thought he's liable to be in there. I need to go look because it's always got mature buck sign in that little under that lip. And I filmed him the other morning, kind of come out of that general vicinity, but I wasn't quite sure. And sure enough, I peeked over that hump, and there out he went. So he's got company.
So I would say that you're on par with what I experienced or if someone would have held a gun to my head and said, guess what the deer are doing in Missouri or southern Illinois, I would have guessed that. I just think you guys are a week behind us, and I really do. So I think that the reason I'm not seeing deer anywhere is because they're locked down. And
that's the potential.
You're not disagreeing with me. I think your definition.
I've always thought you guys are about a week ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So, based on that, tomorrow morning I'm going to sit the downwind side of a bedding area.
No bedding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did that. I did that almost all day yesterday in that heat, and the movement I saw in that doe bedding was so sluggish. I did see some movement; they were in there, but now that cold front's come through, I think doe bedding is a phenomenal. Now's a good time to do it. As good as any.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
I think I'm going to my strategy tomorrow is kind of the same, but different in a way. I'm kind of perched up atop this little tiny, thin, tight, narrow ridge that connects two big, just nasty, overgrown thickets of doe bedding. And so I went in there with the wind up and the heat and humidity. I didn't think they'd be on their feet at noon today. So I went in there with a lone wolf and grabbed the camera when I was there. And that ridge is hammered with sign. And when I got on that camera, it would take your breath away. No joke. So it's going to be serious tomorrow. It's going to be pull them belts tight and get after it.
Right. I agree. I think we're going to see some movement. I think does are going to want to be up feeding, even if they are getting harassed. They're going to do what they do.
With us having a cold front after several days of 80, if you're going to do if you're ever going to do just one all day sit during your calendar year, it ought to be right now.
Okay. That's was my plan. I mean, if I'm seeing it, I'll stay. If I'm not, I won't. So
yeah,
as plans go, just at the stage that I've explained to you that I believe I'm at, my strategy, if I wasn't going to sit all day, is going to be to sit bedding in the morning, adjacent to bedding in a travel corridor, I guess, my thought is to catch a buck, losing a doe and looking for another, and just traveling from bedding area to bedding area. And then in the evenings, hunt food, but not food for food's sake, but food because it's a field and I can get in the open and put out a decoy, and see if I can't catch one cruising in the open, in the evening. And I suppose you could do that in the morning too, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put Troy in a set tomorrow with a decoy. Yeah.
I've had fun doing it.
Definitely
so far,
time to try it. It's a lot of fun. It really is. And it's, I actually got away with some does walking past the decoy the other day, and I was like, wow, I must have rubbed the rabbit's foot right today. Mm-hmm. They walked right by him. One of them went over and smelled him and didn't spaz, that normally is a high speed come apart. When they catch a smell, they actually touch. They just blow gaskets left and right when they get up close with them and actually smell it.
Right.
And she just turned and went on, and I had soaked it. I'd poured 3/4 of a bottle of tarsal scent all over it the night before, and it just stunk to high heaven.
That's funny.
So that's a good trick, I suppose. If you like wasting the $8 worth of urine product, that's neither here nor there. But I'm looking forward to it tomorrow. It's going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun the next handful of days, I feel like. And it's this colder weather that is coming, the cold air that's coming in, man, it makes you feel like I'm amped. I hate that 75, 80 degree crap that we had. It's awful.
Yeah, definitely. But, bucks still got shot. One of our land agent's fathers shot I want to say it was mid 80s or mid 60s. Just a tank of a deer up in Adams County, the 8th. So a couple days ago. And it was just as hot then as it was today. So, I mean, it can happen. Yeah, it's just mentally, it's probably
still can happen.
Brain. Yep.
What I saw, literally, if we're going to encompass this whole heat wave that we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how many days we had there, whether it was 4 or 5 in a row that were bad, but mornings, a lot of times were lit. They were good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But with each day that we had those highs, I feel like my mornings got slower and slower and slower. Mm-hmm. And so then I was seeing by the last day, this morning we drove all over Hell's Half Acre and didn't see hardly anything out moving.
I mean,
I think after so many days, it just becomes first hour, last hour in weather like that.
Yep.
You got to keep in mind, they've got their winter fat on. They've got that winter fur on, that big, dense, insulative fur coat. Good grief, it'd be miserable to run around in that,
Yeah. Yeah, I did a couple of drives in the evenings, just hoping I could get some intel for Dana while she was hunting, and I never really came up with anything. And what I did come up with is the same story from her every night. I saw a couple bucks, 10 minutes before dark, 30 minutes before dark. A big one stepped out.
Yep.
Briefly, looked into the field, etc.
Right.
So I hope to see that change, and I hope we get back to a little bit more of the classic rut stuff. But and
I think what I'm worried about is like now that now that we're actually getting rut temperatures or getting, closer to better. I'm worried that it's just going to be so hellaciously balls to the wall crazy that just grab a dart and throw it at the map.
Get out there.
Seriously. Just go. Yeah,
get out there.
What's your strategy right now? My strategy is to go deer hunting.
Right. Do something, even if it's wrong. I mean,
you've got to be doing something now.
Short of shooting them with a spotlight, don't do that.
No, don't be doing that.
But yeah, I mean, just get out there. Did I ever tell you about that? That we had 3 deer poached on our lease back?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. Big deer. All 3 of them were big deer. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think we're in agreement. Maybe I'm a week ahead of you. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's just my interpretation is different than your interpretation. And I think sometimes human nature dictates that we, sort of get down on ourselves or get down on this, not ourselves, but the situation, and mentally get kicked out of the game, so to speak, and you just can't do that.
I totally agree there. Like today, I was like, you know what, I gotta take. it sounds goofy, but I told the wife, I was like, I gotta take a mental day. I have to take a mental day. Yeah. Like it's hot, it was awful hot weather today. Wind was super gusty. Why not go grab some intel and throw some fresh sets at them? And give it that cold front that best shot. Might as well go run the chips while you got them.
Yep, that's I worked most of the day. Did hang a couple sets here after dark and switched a few things up earlier. David Blanton is in. I don't know if I said that earlier or not, but he'll be hunting with me the rest of the week, and then they're headed down to your part of the world somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where in Illinois, but maybe to the Pike County or something like that. I'm not sure. I hadn't asked him, but I think that's.
What's your forecast for tomorrow like then?
High of about 50, and a low of about 30. So right now the wind is just howling.
However, it's supposed to lay down tonight. It is too here. That wind is really whipping now, and we're supposed to get chance of a little bit of shower, which would be super nice to help quiet that leaf litter down.
Yeah, it's ours. We got about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches maybe today.
Oh, speak of the devil, I'm in my truck and it's raining.
Yeah.
It just started sprinkling. Right on. That'll be good.
Yeah, so hopefully, but I mean, it's so windy right now and it's going to get cold. I have a feeling everything's going to be pretty well frozen in the morning. And
really?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we're not supposed to get down too low. It's supposed to be like 42 or so. And get up, mid to upper 50s, I think, which is still warmish, but it's way better than 80. Yeah. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it should be good. All right. Well,
I don't have to pack a 5-gallon bucket of water with me when I go on an all-dayer.
So what was our prediction last week when you and I and Dave spoke? I don't remember. That was last week.
That we would all be tagged out. That did not happen.
No, I got quite frustrated. I sat several times when Dana was hunting and never saw deer.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. All right, man. Well, we'll do this again next week and see what stage of the rut we feel we're at. I'm still going to say that we're locked down. I will absolutely text you tomorrow morning and let you know if I'm wrong, because I am in the thick of thick.
Yeah.
Like I can see a long ways one way, which will cover a lot of distance in between two bedding areas, and then I'm right up tight to the other bedding area. So I'll be able to tell if there's a lot of cruising going on. That would mean that they're still in the tending stages, and I was wrong about lockdown, at least by the definition that we talked about, right?
Yeah, so I'm kind of doing the same. That I'll be in that thick stuff tomorrow.
All right,
we'll
compare
notes and do it.
All right, brother.
When is this going to air?
I'm going to do it right now.
Well, tomorrow, I want to say real quick, tomorrow's Veterans Day, man. And everybody needs to thank a veteran and appreciate them in their lives, because, man, I love you guys. We love y'all, and we want you to know we appreciate you. So I just wanted to send a shout-out to everybody.
Well done. I talked about that earlier. I didn't talk to you about it. I was talking with David Blanton about it. And we were just talking about how lucky we are to have the freedom that we do and to be able to do this.
Yeah, man, it's awesome.
So
it's been a lot of sacrifice.
Go do something nice for a veteran, or say hello, or help them in some way if you can, or shoot a deer and then go do that.
You bet, man.
All right. Have a good night, man. And
all right.
I'll catch you on the next show.
All right. Stay frosty, brother. I'll see you.
Shall do. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, another episode of the White Knuckle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you picked up a few nuggets of information along the way that you can use down the road. I want to take just a second and thank our partner in this endeavor, and that is UC Hunting Properties. Without them, this couldn't be possible. You guys all know that I work with UC Hunting Properties, and they're actually nationwide. I would encourage you, for any of your property needs, go to www.uchuntingproperties.com. Thanks for listening. Jason out.